All right, we are live. Hey, you guys, this is National Sales Director Leah Laughlin, and welcome to our Master Your Money Pacesetters program. I just feel like running right now. I'm so excited for this program and specifically for this topic. I feel like it's been a long time coming. We did it for the first time last spring and got a lot of really good feedback. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do it again because investing in and developing the skill of mastering your money and understanding your money, both in your Mary Kay business and your life, is just a worthy investment of time and energy and learning and education. And so I know some of you who are a part of this have already started that journey. Like you're already on that journey, possibly well on your way on the journey to mastering your money. And then I know some of you, this may start your journey. This program may put you on that journey. But regardless of where you're at, I think it's one of those topics that we just are constantly learning and growing in. I don't think we ever reach a point where we've arrived or where there's nothing else to learn about how money impacts our life and our business. And so if you haven't started on that journey, I hope this program is a turning point for you or a crossroads for you that puts you on that journey. And if you're already on your own journey to mastering your money, I hope this just is a catalyst to propel you further along on that journey. Okay. And so we have about 6 hours of content that we're going to do through Hangouts, and then probably another 2 to 3 additional hours of videos and Facebook Live training that I have planned. And then we've got the workbook, and then you're going to choose a book that you're going to read throughout this program. Okay, so it's going to be like drinking from a fire hose for these next 3 weeks. You're going to be like dreaming about money because we're just going to immerse ourselves into that world here for the next 3 weeks. But it's truly just a skill and a focus I want everyone to have for a lifetime because of the positive impact it can have on your family, your future, your life, and then everybody else you touch. When you master this part of your life, it's like a ripple effect. It can't not impact other people. And so here's just some interesting money facts just to kick us off, you guys. Credit card debt is now starting in high school. Okay, it used to start in college. It is now starting in high school. 96% of currently employed people will not be able to retire at 65 because of inadequate savings that they have. In 2015, the TSA reported collecting almost $1 million in loose change that was left at airport security checkpoints across the country. And they were able to keep that money. Interesting. With a lifespan of about 4.5 years, the $10 bill is our shortest living note. Our longest living note is the $100 bill, and it lasts about 15 years. Okay, so once it's printed, that's about how long it lives until it dies. It takes 8,000 folds before a bill will tear. You would have to fold it that many times for it to be soft enough to actually tear through the paper. But far few less folds for a vending machine not to accept it. Okay, you know, when you put it in and it spits it back out. But apparently, I've never tried this. If you have a bill that's very folded and soft that a vending machine won't accept, you can put it in the microwave for 20 seconds. And it makes it crisp enough for a vending machine to accept. Okay, I hope that comes in handy for you one day. There are 293 ways to make change for $1. And living presidents are actually banned from having their faces on currency because then it would look like we have a monarchy. There you go. There are your interesting money facts for the day. But there is really no part of our lives that money doesn't touch or impact in some way. And all of us, I would guess, most of us, if not all of us, make money choices every single day. Like there's not a day that goes by that we don't make some sort of decision or choice on how we spend or make money. The number one cause of divorce in America is money or financial disagreement and stress. To take it to a biblical perspective on things, 16 out of the 38 parables that Jesus Christ tells in the New Testament deal with money. Okay, 16 out of 38. More is said in the New Testament about money than heaven and hell combined. 5 times more is said about money than prayer. There are about 500 plus verses on both prayer and faith. Yet there are 2,000 verses in the Bible dealing with money and possessions. And so when you just look at those raw numbers about how prevalent the topic of money and possessions is in the Bible, I mean, obviously it's something that matters, something that matters to God and something to invest time in learning about. And so, you guys, to not give energy and time in growing in this skill, or just maybe ignore it, or maybe live in denial, and to not start to understand our connection to money, and to not start to learn how to be a responsible steward of what God has given you, you guys, it is just, in the long run, can be naive, ignorant, selfish, short-sighted, and irresponsible not to invest your time in this. And then I know some of your husbands primarily handle the finances, although I believe it's a growing occurrence that usually the wife or the female in the family handles finances. But I know some of your husband does and do handle the finances primarily. And I know it's easy, if he's got a good handle on it, to just let him handle it and not know a whole lot about what's going on in your financial world. But I've heard too many stories, like real stories of people I know, and also stories in books I've read of people losing a spouse, whether it's the man or the woman, and whoever is left behind, when they don't know anything about the financial life, or they're dealing with it for the first time. I mean, the unimaginable stress that creates, all while trying to grieve the loss of a loved one. Okay, so if you're not the primary financial person in your world, I want to encourage you that if you're not that person, to take a role and to learn about it and to be involved and understand how the money in your world works and how to even access accounts, just for your own information and awareness. And worst case scenario, you're prepared. You have some level of preparation to manage that part of your life if worst case scenario were to happen. Okay. So let's start out with some foundational truths about money that I want to just lay a foundation, that will be a foundation, and also just an umbrella almost, that everything we're going to learn about kind of falls under this umbrella, or can be stacked on top of this foundation about money. Okay. And the first one is that they're all God's donuts. Okay, so I hope you watched the 6-minute J. John video. I watched that years and years ago and have watched it many, many times because it's very funny. And it just speaks in a fun and funny way to the truth that everything belongs to God. And everything that we see and need has been provided for us by God. And we are just going to lay down that truth and lay down that foundation and build upon that understanding that they're all God's donuts. If you haven't watched that video, check it out in the pinned post. It's a fun way to share that truth. And so we can get caught up into the belief that we created it, or we made what we have or what we see. But truly, everything we have in our life, everything that we see in the world, can be ultimately traced back to our Creator. He just allows us to steward it. but we don't actually own it. And the beautiful thing about that is we can truly live in freedom from things and from money and material possessions. We can live in freedom from that because it's not ours anyways. We're just stewarding it. We're just taking care of it. And we're going to really dig into the definition and understanding of what being a steward is. But we're just taking care of that which is not our own. Okay? And then I hope that gives you a sense of freedom from it. And we can pursue wealth and abundance. We are free to do that without it being an idol in our heart when we remember that it's all God's anyways. Okay, and so pause for a moment with me, you guys, and I want you to just ponder this. And I think this is a good practice to do regularly, is just to think right now of what God has provided for you today. Like, what do you have today that is provision? Okay, I'm just gonna list a few things just to get your mind rolling. I would guess you have clean water to drink today. Okay, enough food, plenty of food, more than enough food. More food than you would even want to eat, and not just food, but good food, quality food, a variety of food. You probably have clean clothes and multiple clothes and options, and shoes to wear and multiple options for shoes. I bet you slept in a warm bed last night with pillows and blankets, and live in a home that gives you shelter and protection and has heating and air conditioning, and we have cars to drive. We can get on airplanes and fly across the world. You're probably watching this on a very expensive device, a computer or an iPhone or an iPad, and those are now not even luxury items anymore. Those are just everyday things that we get to use. I would guess that your children are in school, and we have the freedom and the option and the privilege and the choice to send our kids to go get an education. You could probably take a warm shower today. I mean, the list goes on and on and on, right? Of just the basic things, the basic luxuries and provisions of life that we just open our eyes and there it is. And blessings just pour out upon us every day. And the thing is, though, when you get used to having those things and used to living with these luxuries and these physical things and these comforts, we forget that they are provided for us and given to us by God, and they're an abundant blessing that we get to enjoy every day, that not everybody in this world has access to. Okay, so another truth I want to cover before I move on is that you can hardly have a money conversation without talking about work. Okay, it's hard to separate the two. Okay, a money conversation without talking about work. And so I want to share a few new thoughts with you today about that. New but not new. I'm reading Tim Keller's Every Good Endeavor. I'm like obsessed with that book. I need to add it to our book list. I read books usually on iBooks on my phone or my iPad, because I like to read at night, and I like to not have to get up and turn the light off when I'm ready to go to bed. And so I like the light shining through, although I think that's really bad for your sleep to be staring at a screen right before you go to bed, but it works for me. And so I can hardly read like 2 sentences without highlighting things and taking notes on things and wanting to go back to things. I mean, it's just an incredible book, and it's about the mandate of work and the calling of work and the value of work. And so I just want to share a few thoughts, because again, I want to lay this as a foundational understanding as we have this money conversation for the next 3 weeks. And so we believe as a believer, and from a Christian worldview, we believe that work is the design of God and the calling and the mandate of God. Not every worldview or belief system believes that. But as from the Christian worldview, we have a unique view on what work is. And so we have a creator who modeled work in his creation and in the creation story in the Bible, where he created for 6 days and then rested on the 7th. And his creation is called work. The Hebrew word, I'm forgetting now what it is, but it is the word for work. And our Creator works, and work is not beneath God, which in other worldviews and other religions, work would be something that would be beneath the gods or beneath the deity. But it's not beneath God. He actually created it, and he works for joy and finds delight in his work and in his creation. In the Gospel of John, chapter 5, Jesus is accused by the Pharisees for working on the Sabbath. And how he replies, he says, "My Father is always at work to this very day, and I too am working." Okay, and so there's just multiple examples of how work is the design of God, and it gives us dignity. And to work is to operate in the realm of how God created us to be, and how we are created in his image. And it was also mandated before the fall. There's many views of work that once the fall took place and sin and death entered the world, many people believe that that's when work became a part of our world. But it was mandated by God to Adam and Eve before that happened. They were called to cultivate and work the garden, and they were called to name the animals, and they were commanded to fill the earth and subdue it. And all of those things are connected to purposeful work. And that was before the fall and before sin and death entered. Have you guys watched the T.D. Jakes interview that Stephen Furtick does? It's a really long video, like an hour and a half, but really good and worth the hour and a half time investment. And so T.D. Jakes, and this is totally paraphrased, guys. I would have to go back and get like his direct quote, but he talks about how Christians are always praying for God to provide the chair, the chair, whatever it is that you need. Like, God, provide the chair. I trust in your provision. Give me a chair. And he goes on to say that God isn't in the business of making chairs. God makes trees. And we take what he's provided for us and we make the chair. Okay, he's provided the tree. He's the creator and the provider of what we need to then take that and make the chair. And so it's ultimately God's provision for us. And then we take that provision and then obey the command of subduing the earth and subduing the creation that he's provided for us. Okay, a biblical scholar came to this conclusion from the whole story of creation that's in the Bible. He said, it's perfectly clear that God's good plan always included human beings working, or more specifically, living in the constant cycle of work and then rest and then work and then rest and then work and then rest. I read a book before where they did studies, and they studied what creates satisfaction in human beings, and when are people feeling most satisfied. And one of the hypotheses of this study was that it would be during times of leisure that human beings would feel most satisfied. That vacation that they've been planning for or waiting for, or that weekend where they can take a break from work. But they actually found that the opposite was true, that human beings are actually most happy and most satisfied when doing purposeful work, because that's what we were designed and created to do. There's a quote directly from the book that says, work is so foundational to our makeup that it is one of the few things that we can consume in significant doses without harm. Leisure and pleasure are great things too, but we were only made to take so much of them. And he goes on to say that people who've actually lost their ability to work because of illness or disability or a variety of life circumstances that can take away your ability to work, they say that the main regret those people have is just not being able to do something purposeful and having nothing purposeful to work on. Okay, we were created to operate in that mode. And so let me share with you two quotes that I think are going to sum up, or what I want to sum up this entire program with, just to give us a focus. And these are two quotes about money that I love. Here's one of them. A wise woman should have money in her head but not in her heart. Okay, and that's one of my goals and objectives, that you would learn to understand your money and give energy and intention and focus to your financial world, but not something that would be in your heart, not an idol that you want to try to possess. Because remember, they're all God's donuts. Okay, we can live in freedom from it, yet have a very intentional focus on creating a healthy financial world. Here's the second quote, and this is by John Wesley. He says, "Make all you can, save all you can, give all you can." And I hope that is what unfolds as we walk through this program, is that you're even more motivated to make all you can by working your Mary Kay business and by focusing on your finances and tracking your money. So make all you can, save all you can, have some financial goals, have tracking in place that allows you to save and put aside and invest your money, so that in order that you can give all you can. Because the giving happens, and it happens on a really awesome level when we have more than what we need, and we can really give it away to impact other people. Okay, make all you can, save all you can, give all you can. And so now let me start. I'm going to start to share a story that started my journey in my financial world, that has brought me to this place. Okay, this was almost 10 years ago, right around 10 years ago now. And this started my journey. It was a crossroads that put me on a different path than I was on at that time. So I was on a path, and I hit this crossroads with this story I'm about to share you, and it shifted my path. And I wouldn't be who I am or where I am today in my life or my business without that crossroads and the choices that I made after that. So I want to share that with you, and then we're going to jump into some more technical stuff. Okay, so here's the story that started my journey in my financial world. Okay, so before Mary Kay, I had a few good things going for me related to money. Okay, so let me share them with you. Number one, my parents scared me away from using credit cards. They struggled with credit card debt on and off as we were growing up. It was something they often talked about. And so watching them struggle through that scared me away from getting a credit card and using credit cards, which I think was to my benefit and advantage. I think I was literally afraid of them, because I remember the first one I got very late in college. I got my very first credit card. I think I got a free t-shirt for signing up for the credit card. And did you know that the credit card you get in your very first credit card, which most people get in college, it's the one you will be most loyal to and keep forever, because there's this like nostalgic attachment to it, because it was your first one. And so I got this credit card. I remember the day I first used it. It was in Marion, Indiana, which is where the city that my college was in. I went to Indiana Wesleyan University, and in Marion, there's this goodies like department store, and I don't even know what I bought. I wish I could remember, but I remember like pulling out the credit card and using it for this first time. You guys, I was sweating, like my heart was pounding, and I had the money to pay for it, but I wanted to use my credit card. So I did. And I drove straight home and wrote the check and mailed it straight to the, I don't know what I was doing, mailed it straight to the bank like that very day, because there was that much fear connected to credit cards, and they just seemed dangerous to me. Okay. And so my parents scared me away from abusing credit cards. I used them ever since that day up until now, but they scared me away from abusing them. Okay, so that was one thing I had going for me. Number two was I always had a job and was willing to work hard. Okay, so I always had a source of income coming in since I was literally 12 years old. I got my first babysitting job, and I don't know if there's been a week in my life that I haven't worked since that time, because I knew that money buys you choices, and I wanted choices. And so I always had a way to generate income. Number three, I had low student loan debt. Thankfully, I got scholarships for college, quite a few scholarships to play volleyball, and also because of academics. And so I had pretty low student loan debt, and Cliff had none. His parents paid for his entire college education. And so that was to our advantage, for the obvious reality that people are graduating college, you guys paying a mortgage and not being able to get a job. I mean, that's a whole nother topic. But we had that going for us. We didn't have any other debt besides that student loan debt that I had. I did know how to balance my checkbook, and I did that regularly, like just to stay on top of like tracking the money in my bank account. I know that's very antiquated now to actually balance a checkbook, but I knew how to keep track of it. I learned that in a economics class in high school. So I had that going for me. And then we always, when I was in college, and then when Cliff and I got married right after college, we always lived well below our means and were able to save a little bit every month. And early on in our marriage, it wasn't very much, but we always had more than what we needed, and we knew that we should save the extra. But that was really the extent of my financial skills and knowledge and situation. And you know what? It worked really well for us in that season. It worked well for me in college. It worked well for Cliff and I in the early seasons of our marriage when we were not making a high income. We didn't have a whole lot of choices or financial abundance, but we were also not in a unstable financial situation at that time in our lives, although it was slightly shaky. It was shaky in terms that if something big were to happen, like something's wrong with the car, or there's a big medical expense, or if something big were to happen, that would have been a little shaky because there wasn't a lot of abundance, but it was not an unstable financial situation that we were in. Okay, so take that picture, and then about a year later, I was making a six-figure income. Okay, so overnight, I mean, really overnight, our financial situation dramatically changed because of the income I was making in my Mary Kay business that happened so quickly. So we knew enough not to spend all of it. We knew enough not to do that. And we knew enough to continue saving and investing as much as we could to take the excess and put it away and save it. But that was sort of all we knew at that time. Okay, I didn't have any more advanced financial skills or knowledge. And so here's where the story unfolds. Is my very first year as a director, we earned the top director trip. And the goal was the trip, and we hit the trip. So then that second year as a sales director, we really pushed to finish the million. That was like the next big goal in my heart that I wanted our unit to finish. But we missed it. We missed the mark on June 30th. And my, at the time, national sales director, Pam Shaw, she called me on July 1st that morning, almost first thing that morning. She calls unexpectedly. And of course, she's just calling to see if I'm okay. And she knew I missed a big goal that we had worked really hard on. And so she was just calling to check in. And we had a nice conversation. And at the end of the conversation, she said, you know what, go pamper yourself for the day. Before you get back to work or do whatever you need to do, just go pamper yourself for the day. Go get a massage, take a break. That was her advice to me. Okay. And so I remember that moment. I was on the phone with Pam Shaw. She tells me to go pamper myself. I was standing in the walk-in closet of this 2-bedroom condo that Cliff and I had bought maybe a year before that. And I was standing in there talking to Pam Shaw. And she's like, go pamper yourself. I hang up the phone, and I just have this like come apart, this emotional like meltdown, and just start like crying. Okay, keep in mind, I had stayed up probably almost all night. We had just missed a big goal. It was July 1st. So just a lot of emotions happening at that time. But the phrase, go pamper yourself and get a massage and go take a day for you, is what sparked the emotions and the tears, because I was not raised in a home where money was ever spent on things like that. In fact, it was viewed, and although it was never stated, this was never said in my home, but spending money on things like that was viewed as an unnecessary luxury, and almost like you shouldn't do that. and it's irresponsible to do that. I don't know if my parents even believed that. Maybe that's just the way I perceived things, but I grew up with that belief. I don't think up until that point in my life, my mom had ever gotten a massage or went and pampered herself for the day. I don't think she ever did that. Um, and so I had the question in my heart as to whether I could afford that. And if you would have just looked at black and white numbers of our income and our bank accounts, I mean, it was obvious that it was affordable. But in my heart, I didn't know if I could afford something like that. Okay. We all have these emotional connections to money that often we learned in our childhood. And we're going to dig into that a little bit more next week. But that was one of them for me. So we were in fact in a great financial situation. But here's the thing, we had no short-term or long-term goals financially. We didn't have a whole lot of communication about financial goals between Cliff and I. All I really knew was that money was coming in and money was going out. And that was pretty much the extent of my financial plan. Okay. And so, therefore, it felt really uncertain because there were no more clear or specific goals than that. And because money always felt uncertain to me growing up. Like finances were always kind of a topic and an issue. And they weren't like usually a positive, like there's abundance. It was a topic and issue of there's not enough. And so I think I grew up believing and experiencing that money equals uncertainty. And that's what I felt in that moment, standing in that walk-in closet after Pam Shaw tells me to go pamper myself. Like money just meant uncertainty to me. Okay. And for whatever reason, I think God just used that comment from Pam to bring that uncertainty to the surface. Like if you would have asked me if I felt uncertain about money, I don't think I would have said I did. But that comment just brought it out of my heart and my experience to the forefront of my mind, to the point that I just couldn't ignore that feeling and that emotion. And I knew I had to take action on it. And so I went and got a massage, you guys, because if Pam Shaw tells you to get a massage, you go get a massage. And so I think it was the first one in my life, probably, that I had ever done that or something like that. And I came home from that massage, you guys, and I got onto my laptop computer. I sat at the dining room table in our little condo, and I printed every statement connected to a transaction in our financial world. So all my checking account statements, credit card statements, ProPay statements, just anything where there would be a transaction in our financial world, I printed all of them. And then I opened up a blank Excel spreadsheet, and line by line, I went through every item and started to categorize things in our spending world, both personal and with my business, and just started to add them up, put them into categories, divide them into different months. And that activity there started this habit that I have done every single month since that time. And when I say I've done it every single month since that time, that's almost been 10 years now. I mean, I've done it every single month since that point on, printed all of our statements in our financial world, and I put them in this Excel spreadsheet, categorized and organized. We'll talk about that more in a second. And that habit brought about awareness. And that awareness led to different choices and decisions. And those different choices and decisions created goals and clarity and certainty about my financial world. And it supported me in moving from uncertainty and maybe a not so healthy connection and relationship with money to a more healthy one. And it put me on this path of mastering my money and mastering my financial world. And that activity and that habit that I created after that conversation with Pam, plus books I've read, is the education that I've had that has created a lot of abundance for our family and a lot of choices for our family. And so we did have some good stuff going for us financially up until that point. But my current skill set and current knowledge about our financial world, it wasn't going to cut it for the long run. Okay. What I knew got me up to that point, but what got me there wasn't going to get me here. And I could have possibly managed our finances effectively moving forward. But you guys, there's just this layer of skill and knowledge and awareness that you need when you're running a business. Okay. When you're running a business, it's just different, especially in a commission-based business where every week you're bringing in a different amount of money. Every month you're bringing in a different amount of money. There's the tax part of our business. And there's the delegated help and expenses piece of our business, which we need to understand and master. And so there's just many more moving parts than there are if you just have a job and you get the same paycheck every month and it doesn't really change and your living expenses don't really change. Like there's just some simplicity to that when you add a business in there, you just need more skills and knowledge and awareness and training and education to manage it well. Okay, so you may have managed your financial life really well up until Mary Kay. And so if that's the case, just know that there are additional skills that need to be learned and mastered and that I hope to transfer to you in this program. Okay, so I didn't realize in that moment what that was, but looking back now, that was my crossroads, man. That was my turning point. And I believe that had I not implemented some of the habits and skills and education that I did, I do believe our financial situation would look much different than it does today. Had I not taken that path and had God not prompted that thought of, you know what, there's a lot of uncertainty and emotion that I need to bring some clarity to. Okay. And just a little side note here for everyone is that your lifestyle will automatically increase with your income without ever feeling like you made a choice to increase your lifestyle and your spending. Okay, let me say that again because I think that's profound, that your lifestyle and your spending automatically increases as your income increases without ever feeling like you made the intentional choice to increase your lifestyle and spending. It's like, you're making more money, so you spend more. And so that's just almost like a caution I want to throw out there to those of you who are new in this business or even seasoned in this business, that in Mary Kay, we have the ability to really change our financial world right away. Like you can start making money and good money and more money than you've been making like today, like this week, this month, this quarter, this year. And so be cautious as you start to make a higher income, that you're not starting to spend expected income. Okay, I see that kind of happen in Mary Kay, that you're having maybe a big month or your sales are really high or you've got a lot of parties booked. So there's going to be an influx of income and you start spending it before it actually hits your bank account. I think people do this with their tax return. A certain amount of money is coming back to you in taxes. You mentally start spending that money. Maybe not physically spending it, or maybe you do physically spend it, but mentally you start spending it before it even hits your bank account. And that's dangerous. It's dangerous to spend expected income that's not already cash in your bank account. I see directors often do this. Like when you transition from consultant to director, you're making 3 times more money than you were as a consultant doing the same work. And so it can be a very dramatic increase in income almost overnight. And you can do that at all different levels on the career path. You move from a Chevy Cruise director to a Premier Club director, you're making a lot more money. You move from Premier Club to Cadillac, it's a lot more money. Cadillac to half million to top director. Like all those promotions create this big influx of income into your life and your world almost overnight. But don't spend it too fast or too soon on big things, okay? I see people who are about to earn their Cadillac, like buy a new house or book that vacation or just make that big spending, that big transaction, knowing that the money's coming before it's actually hit the bank account, okay? So that's just my warning to all you Mary Kay people out there. We can make money fast. Don't spend it as fast or faster than it's coming in, okay? There is an order that we need to take. And I think Dave Ramsey teaches that the best, the most effectively, is that there's an order that things should ideally happen in your financial world. And it starts with getting out of debt first. And so often in America, unfortunately, what has happened is that all this big spending is happening while debt exists, which is only growing the debt. Okay, so there's just an order to things that should happen in your financial world, and let's honor that. Okay, so let me move on to the next topic here. Now, let me just share with you what I'm not, just so I don't get questions that I'm not qualified to answer. Not a CPA or an accountant or a financial advisor. I'm none of those things. I've only invested my own personal time in resources that I'm sharing with you that have helped me to learn. I'm by no means a professional or an expert in this category. And so if you have any questions related to your personal taxes or financial world, unless it's directly related to Mary Kay, I'm probably unqualified to answer them. So I just want to send that statement out there that you got to save those questions for professionals. Okay, so here's my vision and goal. Like if this could happen in everyone's world that is a part of this program and watching today, like if these following 3 things could happen, it would make my heart sing. It would give me like joy and satisfaction like you could not even understand if these 3 things could happen in your world right now, if they're not already happening. And if they're already happening, my heart is singing. And number 1 is to learn to run a really healthy Mary Kay business using these 3 steps. 1 is tracking your 60-40 split, doing weekly tracking with that. We're going to teach you how to do that today. If that happens every week in your Mary Kay business, my heart will sing. That will give me joy and satisfaction for you to weekly track your 60-40 split with the sales that you brought in that week. Second thing, okay, so this is all under number 1, running a healthy Mary Kay business as far as money is concerned. Number 2 is having a plan. A plan. We're going to dig into that a little bit this week and then dig into it more next week, but just having a plan. And everybody's plan is going to be different, but like, what is your money plan for your Mary Kay business? What are your goals? Get specific. What do you need to sell each week to make that goal happen? How can this benefit your family? How can this impact your finances? Like, we need a plan. I see a lot of people just kind of drift in their Mary Kay business and enjoy it and have fun with it and make money, but there's no real like financial goal that is spearheading the business. Okay, and that plan in and of itself just creates a focus, and with that focus becomes more abundance and more growth in your business. So a plan, what is your plan? And everybody's plan is going to look different. We'll dig into that soon. And then the third thing is tax organization and prep, and taking full advantage of the tax advantages that we do have in Mary Kay, and being organized and prepared for that, and just using the tax advantages effectively. Okay, so we're going to dig into that a little bit. Number 2, this is more related to your personal finances. And that would be just weekly and monthly tracking of your personal finances. And I'm going to kind of teach you how to do that. Number 3 would be to read a book. And at the end, I'm going to go through the book choices. I know a lot of you have already made your book choice and are reading it because I've heard from you and I've heard from about what you're learning. So if you have, great, run with that. If you haven't made your book selection, I'm going to go over a couple of options at the end of this to hopefully guide you in the book that may be most effective for you, depending on where you're at in your financial journey and world. So if those 3 things happen, it will make my heart sing. Run a healthy Mary Kay business, implement weekly and monthly tracking for your personal finances, read a book. So then that takes us to the 6-week challenge. You guys, this is on the last, I believe, the last page of your workbook. And I want to just briefly mention it because one thing I did last year, you guys, is I finished the program with this challenge. And what happened with that is because the program was over, there really wasn't the space and opportunity for a lot of follow-up and accountability with the challenge. And I didn't like that. And so instead of ending the program with the 6-week challenge, I'm going to start the program with the 6-week challenge so that we can talk about it, have conversations about it, create accountability, celebrate your wins, and establish a habit while we're in the program together, versus you establishing the habit after we've all left the program. Okay, so here's the 6-week challenge that started yesterday. Okay, so it's starting right now this week, and it goes for April all the way through May. So these last 2 weeks in April and then the full month of May is your 6-week challenge. To do the following things. The first thing is I will track my Mary Kay sales using the 60/40 split spreadsheet every week and then pick your day. And I think it's important to just have a money day every week, or a tracking day every week with your business. I do Money Mondays. So every Monday morning when I enter into my office, that's one of my things on the list, is just to have a Money Monday. And I'll explain what I do on that Money Monday in a few minutes. And so as you do it each week, you check off the little boxes and you can track your 6-week challenge right on the page. I think it's page 16 in your workbook. And so go ahead and pick your day, write it in there, and create some time and some space this week to do your 60/40 split with your sales tickets. Okay. The second thing is I will track my spending in the following categories on a Money Monday or a Financial Friday, or whatever day of the week that it works for you to do that. So you're going to pick one day to do some tracking in your personal financial world. And it can be the same day and space and time that you do your 60/40 split, or it can be a different time. Next thing, I will track my monthly spending, every transaction that takes place in my life in April and May, with a total amount spent in every category. And this is what's going to take the bigger amount of time investment. And we'll kind of break down how to do that. This is just an option for you guys. I'm just going to throw it out there. If you're ready for like a real big challenge, I commit to not spending in the following category for April and May. Okay, I commit to not spending anything in the following category in April and May. And so I'll just share a quick story with that. Shortly after my crossroads story, where I had this new awareness of my financial world and started taking steps to move from uncertainty to clarity and certainty, I decided, for a variety of reasons, that for a year, I was not going to spend any money on my hair, my nails, like mani-pedis, or just buying clothes and accessories and anything like related to that, jewelry, things like that. For a year, I wasn't going to do this. And I was a top sales director. And so I grew my hair out really long and did my own, manicures, pedicures at home. I just re-wore all the really nice clothes that were in my closet anyway without buying something new. And I did this partly because I wanted to save money. And those are easy areas to save money in, because when it comes down to it, like, you just don't need it. You can survive and thrive without those things. They're not a necessity, they're a luxury. And so I wanted to save some money. And that was just an obvious category. And then also another part of it is I just wanted to prove to myself that those things didn't have any power over me. And they weren't like an idol in my heart. And they weren't something I was trying to grasp onto. And I just wanted to show myself that and prove that to myself. Because if I have a weakness in spending, you guys, it's on clothes. Like, straight up, just being perfectly transparent, I could do some damage, like some damage shopping on clothes, because I like to, and I like clothes. And so that was another part of it. I wanted to take that one thing that I really liked that I could do damage in. Other things I could care less about. Like electronics, I don't always need the newest phone or computer and that stuff. Like, I don't care about that stuff. But clothes I cared about. And so it's like I wanted to prove to myself that I could take that thing that I really liked and like withhold it from myself. Okay. So what category is that for you guys? It could be simply like not buying coffees, and just always making it at home. But implement some kind of spending discipline, because I think there's a lot of value in doing that, and it saves you money. Okay, and then I will finish the book blank by June 30th. And so we're going to give you May, or the rest of April, May, and then the whole month of June to finish your book. Doesn't matter if you read it or get it on Audible. There's still 2 fabulous ways to learn. And I want the book to continue to prompt the growth of your spiritual life and world, and help prod you along on your money journey. Okay. And then the last thing is I will have a wealth management meeting with my spouse or significant other or parent or mentor, depending on who that person is in your life. Have a wealth management meeting to go over your financial goals in April or May. And just choose a month. Oh, I said in April and May. Okay, you got to do it both months. So you got to have a little meeting in April and a little meeting in May. And if you do it with your spouse, you guys, this can be fun. It doesn't have to be stressful. How could you make it fun? Okay, so that's our challenge. Okay, if you guys can do those things, like if you just take this 6-week challenge and start implementing some of these things, your financial world will transform, you guys. It will transform, and you will move to a new level of awareness and clarity like overnight. All right, so let's dig into some more technical things. Again, last year I finished our hangout with understanding the 60-40 split and how to use those spreadsheets. But I want to kick it off with this because I want you guys, again, to be using it throughout the program so you can ask questions and create the habit and have the accountability while we're all together in this for the next 3 weeks. And so the 60-40 split, the first thing I want to say is that it's not always an exact science. Okay, there's a lot of variables that go into your own personal 60-40 split. And it's 60-40 for everyone, but the variables would be how much you sell. The more you sell, the more choices it's going to give you. Another variable would be how much inventory do you have on hand, and how quickly do you want to grow to a full inventory. Another variable is do you have an investment to pay down that you use to get inventory on hand? Some do, some don't. Another variable is the amount of expenses that you have with your business. And that sort of depends on where you're at on the career path, or where your goals are at, or how seasoned you've been in the business. And so what are your expenses like? And so just understand that, like, I'm going to give you a formula and advise you on the 60-40 split. But there is some flexibility within the 60-40 split that I want you to feel the freedom to work with depending on your goals. Okay, so for example, I recommend saving 10% for expenses, 5% for like just your shipping that you pay for when you reorder, and then another 5% to cover everything else. Okay, your expense world in Mary Kay may look different than that. And so I'm going to teach you one way to do it, but just don't get caught up into the black and whiteness of this. You guys feel the freedom to make this work for you, and just use it as a guide to learn and understand how it works. Sales directors, I know some of you use all of your sales to cover your business expenses and don't take a profit from sales, so that all of your commission check can be put into your personal checking account and not used for business expenses at all. So that's one way to do it. That's actually how Mary Kay Ash recommended that sales directors do that. And so the 60-40 split is going to look different for you if that is your goal, to cover all your director expenses with your sales. Okay? So I'm going to give you a guideline, lay a foundation. You're going to take that and make it work in your Mary Kay world, in your financial world. Okay? So don't get too caught up if this doesn't exactly apply to you. All right? All right, let's screen share this. This is in your workbook, but I want to screen share it because it's just helpful to see it as I talk through it. Okay, share. All right, so there's the 6-week challenge. Oh, you guys aren't seeing that yet. Yeah, now you are. Okay, so there's the 6-week challenge that I just talked through. Let's scroll through here. We're going to talk about that stuff next week. We're going to talk about that the 3rd week. Oh, no, I need to go up. Okay, here we go. This is just a worksheet that I use to help explain the concept of the 60-40 split. For newer consultants, this may be new information to you, and this is hopefully going to help you to understand it. For more seasoned consultants or sales directors, you can use this to actually teach money management to your team. I use this worksheet in my Pink Boot Camp. Pink Boot Camp is new consultant training that I do with all of my new people, and we cover the basics of money management in the 4th session, which I call business management. And so I throw money management as a topic into that training session. And I use this worksheet to just explain the 60-40 split and have a conversation about it, because I think it's helpful to actually see numbers and see numbers connected to different levels that you're working your business. So sales directors out there, I hope this is a tool that you can take and use in your money management training. And by the way, sales directors, money management absolutely is such an important topic to cover for new consultants. And so I cover it, like I just told you, in Pink Boot Camp, but then in my new consultant tracking, I have a box to check off, and it says money management conversation. And I have an individual one-on-one money conversation with new consultants, especially ones that made an investment in inventory. And so I do think it's so important that as directors, we lead our people to having a healthy financial world in their Mary Kay business. And although we cannot control what our people choose to do with that information, that's up to them and that's on them. We are responsible to provide the tools, the resource, the education, the conversation, so that people are equipped to have a successful financial world in their Mary Kay business. So directors, I hope this is a tool that you can use. And so I like the breakdown of Power 4 through 12. We use the Power program, and it's a way that we track parties in our national area. And this just gives you a good idea of what you'd be looking at, and it's a pretty conservative average, in my opinion. The total retail you see in these numbers is based on selling an average of $200 per party with 3 or more people attending. So that means you're selling each person that's at that party, if you have only 3 people there, at least $67 per face. So that's like a basic set and a mascara, something close to that, which is a pretty conservative average. And so when you see these numbers right here, 800 retail, that's based on having 4 parties. And I even have it as there's going to be 5 people at each party. So you've done 20 faces. And then you're selling at least 200 in each of those 4 parties. So 4 times 200 equals 800 retail. And your wholesale order is just half of that because you're reordering what you sold. Okay, and it follows the same pattern throughout the whole program. So you're doing a power 6 and holding 6 parties. Well, then you're probably selling 1,200 retail conservatively, and your reorder would be 600 wholesale. And then so on and so forth with power 8, power 10, and power 12. And so those of you who are newer to this business, this could be a good guide for you in how much money you want to bring in your Mary Kay business, and a good idea of how to create that extra income. Okay, so would $500 more a month bless your family and help pay some bills or help pay off debt early? Okay, well then you're probably looking at a power 6, which is 1 to 2 parties a week. And so you see how that goal, that financial goal, creates focus and clarity in your business. Now you know, I need to hold 1 to 2 parties a week. So you look at your day book and you block out some times that you can ideally do that. And then you keep breaking it down from there. So if I want to hold 1 to 2 a week, I need to book, 2 to 4 a week, because about half are going to hold. If I need to book 2 to 4 a week, I need to get 1 new booking every other day this week. Or I need to get 5 new bookings by Friday, however you want to break it down. And then all of a sudden you have a booking goal. And if you need to book 1 new party every other day, then you're setting aside some time, maybe an hour or so every other day, to invest time into booking those new parties. Okay, so you see how like that financial goal, I want to make $500 a month this month to go towards paying off our debt, or to go towards a family vacation we want to take this summer. You start with the financial goal, and then it leads you to the activity that you want to do. And I want to, if you don't have that really strong connection right now between a financial goal and the activity in your business, I hope that this program creates that strong connection. Okay, I need this amount of money, therefore I need to do X, Y, and Z in activity to create that income. I know it's simple, it's like duh, it's so obvious, but sometimes we like miss that connection for some reason. Like we get confused and distracted, and we forget that we can make money with this business, and you can set a very clear goal, and you can control your income with your Mary Kay business, and all you have to do is connect it to some daily activity. I mean, it's literally that simple. Okay, so so that breaks it down for the Power program, and celebrate, you guys, because these are conservative numbers. I mean, these numbers only grow as you increase in your skill. Like, take some of my seasoned consultants, man, they would blow this number out of the water. Some of our seasoned consultants and seasoned directors, they'd be selling double that, triple that, doing a Power 12. And then you add in reorders for having a established and loyal customer base. And this number looks like pathetic compared to what you can do as you grow in your skill level and as you grow in building your customer base. Okay, so that's a very conservative number. All right, the 60-40 split explained. Let's start with the 40. The 40% is going to go into a Mary Kay checking account or savings account, or possibly even a personal checking account. And we're going to go over that in more detail in this cash flow worksheet that is in your packet. And so what you do with this 40% really depends on what your financial goals are. Initially, it's probably being used, part or if not all of it used to pay down inventory investment. Or maybe you're using part or all of it to build an inventory. Or if you don't need to do those two things, it's personal or fund money or savings or going towards your family. Okay, so what you do with this 40% really depends on what your financial goals are. Okay, so then the 60%, that's your business money that stays in the business and that goes towards building and growing and taking care of the business. And so 60% is going to go into some separate accounts, with 50 of that 60% being reinvested and 10% to cover your expenses. Now, I've heard people say sometimes like, wait, I thought we made 50%. Why is this 40%? Well, let me explain. We do make 50% commission and a 50% profit. But with all businesses, there are just natural expenses that happen, and you want to pay the business expenses with part of the business profit, as every business does. So it's not that we don't make 50% commission. We do. We do, and we always will. We just happen to be teaching you to use part of that profit and commissions to cover business expenses, like every other business in the history of the world has done. You do not own a business without having some overhead and some expenses that come along with the operation of the business. And we want to teach you and train you to use part of your profit to cover those expenses. Okay, so that's why you see a 60-40 split, not a 50-50 split. All right, so 50% to reinvest, to keep your inventory stocked so that you can provide the best possible customer service. 10% for expenses. I'm going to actually teach you to break it down into 5 and 5. So 5% to cover shipping in section 2 in your reorder. And then another 5% to cover some additional expenses like the PCP program. By the way, that deadline is today, you guys. Don't forget to enroll your customers in PCP. This April 17th at midnight is the deadline. There's also ProPay, and then there's Mary Kay events. All right, and so this 5 and 5, I'm actually going to teach you to put it in separate accounts if that's helpful and beneficial to you. Okay. And so I say down here, the best practice is to have one checking account for your reorder and 5% of your expenses that cover shipping in section 2, and then a separate checking account for another 5% to cover other expenses. All right, you don't have to do that. It's not like a requirement to successfully run the 60-40 split. I think it's just beneficial and helpful. And so then it breaks down, it goes back to the power program and just sort of breaks down the numbers. Like, okay, if you held 4 parties and sold $200 each for a total of 800 retail, 320 would go into a Mary Kay checking or savings. 50% would be your reorder, 400 wholesale. And then you've got $80 to cover your expenses. And then it just breaks down those numbers on each level. And then you've got this goal of paying off your inventory. And so I'm going to actually go through that with you. I'm going to take it off screen share, but I just want you to know these questions are here. Directors, I've used these questions many times, especially during new consultant training, to support people in breaking down the numbers and paying off their initial inventory investment. Okay, but I'm going to go back to the screen. Actually, you know what? I'm going to do something else. Yes, this is what I'm going to do. Okay. So I created this visual. I hope this is helpful. This is just how my brain thinks of it. And I hope to see it visually helps you to understand just the flow of the money, like how the money is flowing. So up at the top here, you got money, money, money. Hopefully lots of money coming in right here. And so what do you do with all that money? And what can complicate things is it comes in different forms. You know, some people write checks, some people give you credit cards. And now we've got Venmo and we've got PayPal and we've got Facebook Messenger payments And so there's money coming in from a lot of different places. We got to figure out what to do with it. And here's what I recommend with like Venmo, PayPal, Facebook payments is just to transfer it all into this main checking account. This is your main Mary Kay checking account right here. And so all of those outside sources, you want to have just an easy way to transfer into there. And this main checking account is the debit card number you would use for all of your reorders. And you would keep 5% in there to cover your shipping and your section 2, because that's all going out of your bank account in one chunk. Okay, your wholesale order plus your shipping charge and your section 2 samples and supplies that you need, that's going to be like a one payment. And so you want that coming out of your one main Mary Kay checking account. All right. And so then you've got ProPay here. All right, let's talk about ProPay. That's a separate account where you're collecting credit and debit card transactions. And so here's my best, well, let me just tell you what I've done. I always use it directly for reordering just because it's easy versus transferring it to your checking account. You wait a couple of days for that to happen. So it's just easy to use it directly for your reorder, plus again, 5%. And so we have a separate a separate Excel spreadsheet, which breaks down the money that you have in ProPay, because not all of it's going to be used, you guys, but some of it needs to be used for your reorder plus expenses. And so you use that directly, and it's the Excel spreadsheet that tells you how much money is in ProPay to use for reordering and 5% expenses. Okay, so you got to do what the spreadsheet tells you. Okay, I hope everyone's following. And then from ProPay, you move 5% of your expenses, and these are for other expenses. So this is an actual separate account right here, the 5% expenses, that is coming from 2 different places. It's coming from a transfer from your main checking account, and it's coming from a transfer for your ProPay account. And the Excel spreadsheet is what tells you the amount. Then we have another account, you guys, and that can be a separate Mary Kay checking or a savings account, or it can be your personal checking account. And there is a way for your bank to link all of these up. So it should be just like a couple clicks and it's an easy transfer. And so then you have an account for what's left over. And depending on your financial goals, it can be used to pay off inventory, your inventory investment. It could be used towards building your inventory if you're not at a full store level. And it can be, and then it can be for whatever you want when those 2 goals are moved off your plate. Okay, I just had a thought, you guys. Give me like a couple seconds to write it down. Okay, got it written down. I didn't want that thought to escape my brain. So I had to just pause for a moment. Okay, so let's stop the screen share for just a brief moment. Let's regroup. I know even when you are a numbers person, to see a lot of numbers can just be, you can feel that overwhelming feeling, or like this feels too hard, or this is complicated, or I don't have all those accounts set up, or how do I make the transfers? So I know there might be a lot of questions, unanswered questions, or maybe your heart is pounding a little bit because you haven't mastered this and it might seem complicated. Just take a deep breath and know that we can figure this out. And all you have to do is take the next best step right now. Okay, anything hard or complicated can be figured out when you keep moving forward and take the next best step. All right, so if you're feeling overwhelmed, I think this is always, I love this. I learned this in coaching school. You know, when you're at a Mary Kay event or you're getting training and you almost feel your body and your mind and your heart like filling up. And we often use the phrase like, my cup is full. Um, or I've received so much I could go home right now, or my mind is racing, my mind is spinning. So we just like feel that filled up feeling, which can sometimes feel overwhelming. And so I learned in coaching school, when you start to have that feeling, you're a cup, and here's your cup, and your cup is full because you've received a lot and it's starting to feel like a lot. But if we have that mindset of, my cup is full, my cup is full, my cup is full, how do you continue to add more? Unless you empty the cup. Okay, so if you can do this with me, go ahead and stand up, make your cup, and we're going to empty it on out. Pour it out. I'm a little teacup. And then come back to center. Now we are ready to receive more. And we're going to figure this out together. Okay, so that's your cash flow sheet. Now, let me just offer this up to you. If that does not work for you, all those different accounts, transfers, money moving around, what would work for you? Because it's not like you have to have that to be successful. How would it work for you? Take that and map it out on the paper with the different accounts you have, and make it work for your financial picture in your Mary Kay business. All right. Okay. Let's go ahead and screen share the 60/40 Excel spreadsheet. We have to get that in today, you guys, because I want you to use these. And they're pretty self-explanatory, but I think just need a tiny bit of explanation. And so let's start with your checking account. All right, let's screen share that and talk about how you use this. And so these can be downloaded. They're just simple Excel spreadsheets. They can be downloaded into the pinned post, and then you save them as a document on your computer that you can then access and enter numbers into. And this becomes your document that you're using on a weekly basis. And you just sit down with your sales tickets, and you're taking each individual sales ticket and entering it into this Excel spreadsheet. And there's a page for every single month of the year. And so we are in April right now. So all your sales tickets are going to go on the April page. And then you're going to go to May, obviously, when we start the month of May. It all says 2017 because we made these for this program last year and haven't updated it. So you can easily update. You can even just take the date out of there and save it as retail sales 2018, and maybe save that one document for all your sales in 2018. Okay, there are many benefits of having this record, you guys, many, many benefits. This could possibly replace weekly accomplishments, but talk to your sales director about that, because weekly, you basically enter the same thing into weekly accomplishments. And so weekly accomplishments is wonderful because you can print a report at the end of the year that has added up all of these numbers all year long that you then need to do your taxes with and need for your own personal records. And so all of the information that goes into weekly accomplishments as far as sales are related, okay, so there's other things in weekly accomplishments that aren't related to sales, but everything related to your retail sales are in these spreadsheets, so it could replace it, but your director may ask you to do it because of other reasons. So for example, if you're in my unit, I want to invite you to still do your weekly accomplishments, because when you submit it, I get to see it. And when I get to see it, we can celebrate. And every month, we send out little postcards. And for every $100 in retail reported on weekly accomplishments in my unit, they get an MK buck. My unit members do. And I send out postcards that tells them how many MK bucks they've earned. And then they can spend their MK bucks at events that we're together at. And I bring Section 2 items and lookbooks and, just things they need for their business that they can spend their MK bucks on and get some supplies and some goodies to use for their Mary Kay business. So directors, if that idea is helpful. So that's the reason my unit can't stop doing weekly accomplishments, because we do recognize that. And I like to see that and celebrate that. but that is up to each own director and how she wants to run it. So let's take a look at it so we can understand this worksheet. We're going to start with the checking account. And the reason we have two, we have one for checking and one for ProPay, is just because we have to track different numbers in in each of those. And so we need two separate ones. Okay, so here we go. This is check and cash deposits into your Mary Kay checking. This would also include Venmo and PayPal and Facebook Messenger deposits as well. All right, so it's any kind of deposits going into your checking. And so you have a line entry for every single sales ticket. Okay, so Kate Rich, this was a reorder I got last year. Kate is one of my customers. She ordered an Ultimate Mascara. She wrote me a check for $15.97. That was the cost of the product plus tax. And that's where you put the transaction total. That's just whatever money you collected from her, including tax. And I know some people do charge customers a shipping charge and some don't. So if you do, you would put that amount in there as well. Then you put the total retail value of the product, and this includes giveaway and hostess credit. And so the retail value of this Ultimate Mascara is $15. Okay, that is an important number. Now let's say I gave her a $5 gift card, you guys, and she got the mascara for $10. I would still put 15 in here because we're just putting the retail value of the product. Let's say you sell a Princess Roll-It bag and they get the actual bag for free. Well, that bag is a $35 value. And so you would want to add that $35 to the total retail value of the products you gave her, even though she didn't pay for the bag. Okay, so this is money collected, and this is the retail value, and these are going to be possibly very different numbers, okay, for a variety of reasons. And then if you were to give away a retail amount, you would write it in here. Whether it's a gift card or hostess credit or the free Roll-It bag from buying the princess bag or queen's bag, you're going to write that amount in here. And so Kate bought the mascara and she got no retail credit was given away, no gift card was given, so 0. And then you put in the tax that was collected, 97 cents. And then you put in unrecovered sales tax. So let's say she gave you a lot of referrals and you gave her a mascara for free as a gift. Well, you're not taxing her on that mascara, but you paid tax on that. And so we need to know whatever tax you paid when you ordered the product, but then did not recover because you didn't recover it because it was a gift to her. Okay, this is an important number to know for taxes. And so when you're at parties filling out these sales tickets, it's important to document everything. You know, don't just hand her that mascara without it being on the sales ticket that she got a free mascara, because you need to know that so that you can enter that information in. Okay, so now the 50% reorder amount is $7.50. That is what that mascara, that $15 mascara costs you. Costs you $7.50. Well, when you sell a mascara, you replace a mascara. And so this tells you the reorder amount. And that's a formula. So you don't have to enter that in there. That's automatically going to be entered in when you enter in the number. Let's do this. Let's say you sold her a lash intensity. So let's change that 15 to 18. And you see it changes the reorder amount because you changed the retail value of the product. Okay, let's change it back to 15. Okay, so then it also automatically does 5% of that order and another 5%. And the reason I split these up is because I've always liked them split up in my checking accounts, you guys. So I don't know, you don't have to do it this way, but it's something that has worked for me. And then, was it a customer delivery service order? I could have shipped her that mascara, but I see her every day when I drop off my kids at school. My kids go to school with her kids. And so I just dropped off the mascara when I was dropping off the kids at school. And so there was no customer delivery service ordered. So you just put 0. But if it were, you put $575. And you see how that changes your profit because you had more expenses with that order. Let's change it back to 0. Okay, so then your profit, or what's left over, okay, because remember 50% is your profit, but what's left over after you take care of your business, and the way you take care of your business is the 50% reorder and then covering your expenses. So you've taken care of your business and now you have money left over. And that's where you transfer that to a separate account, possibly, unless it works for you to keep it all together. I want to give you guys freedom to make this work for you. But I like to move this money out of that account into a personal account. And that's what you use to do multiple things with, depending on your financial situation in your business. And then let me see here if I've got totals down there. I think I should. No, I don't. I think I do in the ProPay one, just as an example. So let's go to the ProPay one, because that's just slightly different, although pretty much the same. There are some slight differences. So let's take a look at it. I think this is it. Yes, it is. Share. Present to everyone. Okay, so now we have ProPay. So let's pull that up here. And so here we go. Let's just go through the example. JC is a customer of mine. She came to a guest event last year. And this was the total money I collected, and I charged her credit card for and actually I didn't charge her credit card for $86. I charged it for more than that, but this was the amount I had left in ProPay after the fee came out. So if you see up here, it's the transaction total. So money collected plus tax, plus a possible shipping charge if you charge your customer shipping, minus ProPay fees. And so kind of what you have to do with this is I just wait till my ProPay fees have processed. Now, obviously you can figure out the percentage of what it's going to take out, but you've got to wait to see what that fee is going to be that it takes out. And actually it shows you that right away, right? You see that right away. I'm pretty sure you do. Okay. So, because you can see it pending. Yes. And so you're entering that amount after the fee was taken out. And then again, you have the total retail amount. Now, do you see a discrepancy here? What I collected and the retail value are different because she got a $25 gift card from me for coming to a guest event. And so that was the retail amount I gave her. Now, that only cost me $12.50. But she got that $25 retail amount. Okay, that's important. The retail amount that was given. Okay, here's the sales tax that was collected. There weren't any unrecovered sales tax. She got taxed on the full value of the product. Here's my reorder amount based on this number. Okay, so not based on this number here, not based on the money you collect. The reorder amount is always based on the total retail value of the product right here. So whatever you put in here is going to give you this reorder amount, okay? And then it shows you the amount you need to set aside for expenses. It was not a CDS order. I gave her products on the spot at the guest event. And then this is what was left over. And then let's go through, okay, so Maggie's order, I think her order was online. Okay, I have a little note in here. That's good. There was no credit given. Let me see if there's any difference here. Okay, I did CDS on this order. So that I shipped that to her because it was an online order. And so that $5.75 came out. So there you go. So what I did want to show you is down here at the bottom. So it gives you room to do 70 transactions. You can change that if you need to more or less. But there's 70 lines that every line is for a sales ticket. And then it shows you the totals. So when it's time to, let's say it's time to reorder out of your ProPay account. Okay, so it shows you right here between these two numbers what you have in that account to use for the reorder. You have $87.50 to use for the reorder, plus the 5% expenses you can use to help cover shipping in section 2. So you add those two numbers together, and that's what you can apply to your order from your ProPay account. The rest of it that's sitting in here, which would be, the rest of it would be this other 5%, and then what's left over, that's what gets transferred to other accounts, if that's how you choose to do it. Okay, so are you following that? So this Excel spreadsheet is telling you what to do. It's telling you what your reorder amount is, and it's telling you what to transfer to other accounts because it falls into a different category. Everybody crystal clear? Oh, I trust that you are and hope that you are. And so there you go. Those are yours to use. Those are also yours to tweak and change to make it fit within your picture, within your financial world. And that is your challenge. Part of your challenge is to use those every single week. And you guys, if there's a little bit of confusion or complication or questions, just go through some examples. You guys grab some sales tickets from all your reorders that you did last week for the early bird voucher and just start plugging them in and see how the numbers work out and see how the totals add up and see what's going to work for you and see what kind of system is going to be helpful and beneficial, knowing that it's going to take some time to kind of catch on to this and make it work for you. So be patient in the process. Be patient in the process. But this will serve you so well, my friends. This will serve you so well, and it avoids a lot of common pitfalls. And some common pitfalls are reordering too much. And not giving yourself that 40% profit to do a variety of different things with. Another common pitfall is reordering too little and dwindling down your inventory and getting into a place where you don't have adequate inventory to support your customer base. Another common pitfall is just ordering too much section 2. Yes, we need samples and supplies to support our business and to take care of our business. But man, we could just, I could spend my whole commission check on section 2 stuff. It's so fun. And so it kind of gives you an amount like, hey, you've got this much to spend on section 2. So what's the highest priority? What are the things you need to run your business? All right, so that worksheet avoids those common pitfalls. And it shows you money. You know, you can easily, you know, that going back to that uncertainty feeling that I had, when you track your money like this, it's just, it shows you black and white where your money's at, how much money you're making, where you're putting it. And guys, I think it leads to a sense of abundance when you can see, look at the amount, look at the money I am moving into my personal checking account because of my sales. And that can give you a sense of satisfaction. It gives you a sense of abundance. It gives you that reward that comes from working your business. It can give you evidence to show somebody who in your life who maybe gives you some resistance, like, oh, you can't make money doing that. Well, let me show you. Like, let me show you the money that I'm making and the income that I'm bringing in. Okay, even if you're not a numbers person, this can give you a lot of peace and sense of abundance when you really work with these Excel spreadsheets. Okay, so let me see here what I want to do. Okay, with the time that we have left. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to save the plan, because remember I told you, like, if you do these things, it'll make my heart sing. One of those things is having a plan, and I go through a couple different examples of how to have a plan. And I use a variety of different scenarios to do that. So we're going to save that to next week so that I can explain the tracking system that I want you to get started in your life here. So we will cover everything. We will, if I have to use Facebook Live to cover anything we didn't cover, we will get it all covered. All right, let's talk about weekly tracking right now. And so remember I told you I have a Money Monday every Monday morning. And so that is a time where I sit down with our checking account and we have a little session. And I look at every transaction that happened between that Monday and last Monday. I just breeze through it. It's like a skimming and scanning. I'm not doing something with every transaction and every number. I'm just taking a look at it. And just that brief look, that awareness, the awareness alone creates different choices. Those different choices lead to different habits. Those habits create your future and paint a picture of your financial world. Okay, the awareness alone, you guys, can transform your financial world. Also, I think it's protection too. I can't tell you how many times I've scanned through there and thought, what's this? Or, oh, I got charged for that twice. Or, oh, I paid too much for that. Or, I don't know what that transaction is. Let me call my bank. I think it just creates protection too, to always be looking at what's happening in your checking, especially your checking account. Okay, so I skim through every transaction and then review goals. And then there are 2 items that we personally track, and I do this on Mondays, and it's groceries and dining and entertainment. For us, those are the 2 categories that are just the easiest to spend more than we want to in those categories. And so I track those more carefully than I'm going to be tracking, like our cell phone bill or our, there's just some bills that they're pretty much the same every single month. There's not a whole lot of tracking that needs to be done on a weekly basis. That's more for like your monthly tracking spreadsheet. And so what are categories for you that you want to keep a close eye on? What are categories that are just easy to overspend in, or it's easy to just get carried away in certain categories? Pick those, 1 or 2 or 3. It doesn't have to be everything, but just pick some. And that's what you're going to do your weekly tracking on. And this is typically for your personal life, but this can also be applied to your business too. And you're just going to add up a total. And I've done this within my Excel spreadsheet, you guys, and I've just done it on a piece of paper. Okay, dining and entertainment. What was spent? This, that, this, that, this, that. And then you add up a total. And then I actually vox those totals to Cliff just to keep him connected to our financial world. I am the one who handles all of the finances in our life and all the transactions and all the bills and all of that stuff. But anything I do, I'm always sharing with him and voxing to him. He's not touching it. He's not actively looking at it. But I'm sharing that information. And we also have a document that has every single account and all the passwords and how to log in. We have that just for safety and protection and accountability. And we both know where that document is. And then once a quarter, we have a wealth management meeting where he is more actively engaged in looking at the numbers, and together we're talking about goals and looking at where we're at with our financial goals. Okay. So I box in those numbers and that's pretty much it. That kind of covers my Money Monday tracking. I keep an eye on categories of spending I want to keep an eye on. I'm reviewing all the transactions, reviewing our goals, and communicating to him about that. It doesn't take very long. And so I want to invite you to do the same and decide what categories you want to track. Let me see what else I wanted to share within here. Okay, so what's even better than that, you guys, is the cash in envelopes system. Dave Ramsey teaches that, and he has many, many resources in his Total Money Makeover book. There are a ton of tracking resources in there, like everything you could possibly imagine that you would ever need to track your financial life. He has a resource for that is downloadable somewhere. I'm forgetting now where it's downloadable, but you can get your hands on his tracking sheets. And what he teaches you to do is cash in envelopes. And again, not for every category. You're not gonna like walk down to the local government building and pay your water bill in cash. Like you want that to be automatically deducted from your checking account. But for things like dining and entertainment, you have a certain amount you can spend. You take it out of your checking account, you put it in an envelope, and then that's what you've got. And you can only spend within that cash allowance. You could do that for groceries as well, or clothing, or some other discretionary spending that you can have. It helps to rein you in, helps to create boundaries around your spending, and leads to a whole lot higher level of awareness. When you just have plastic to swipe whenever you want or need something, that's a whole lot different than opening up a cash envelope and looking and seeing $20 left. It creates just a different mindset and a different level of awareness. And if you're really needing to transform your financial world and do it fast, cash envelopes would be a great way to do that. Dave does talk about that in full detail in his book, Total Money Makeover. And I believe there are some videos that we have posted that you're going to be watching that briefly touches on that. So also the reason that I would recommend doing it weekly and at least checking in weekly and reviewing weekly is because an entire month is like way too much time that goes by that you kind of forget things that happen. When you wait an entire month before you review everything, I mean, you just forget things. Guys, I can't tell you how many times, this is kind of embarrassing, how many times I've called my bank and I've said like, I didn't make that transaction. Like, I don't know what that's for. And as we dig a little bit deeper, I'm like, oh yeah, I did. My bad. Like, I totally remember doing that. It's just like you forget even over the course of a couple of weeks. And so you want to keep a weekly eye on it because you're just going to stay more checked in and tuned in. Whereas only looking at it once a month, you're forgetting things and forgetting what happened. Okay, so that covers weekly tracking. Pretty basic, pretty simple. When can you have your financial day? What categories can you track? What's going to be your system for keeping track of it and then communicating it to a significant other if that's necessary? Okay, so let's go into monthly tracking. This is a little bit more involved. And what I want to start by saying is that if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Some of you could very well have your own system. And if it's working for you, then good. Like, don't get bogged down or distracted by my system if you already have one that works. Also, if you already have an app that works, keep using it. Don't feel like you have to change to my kind of antiquated system of an Excel spreadsheet. I have tried Quicken, QuickBooks, YNAB, Mint. I've got a lot of those different money apps, but my favorite is the good old-fashioned Excel spreadsheet. I mean, I can't even stand how helpful it is. I can look at my entire year of spending on one page. I can see totals in every category. I can see averages spent in every category. And then the columns on this side have our average in 2009. And then what was our average in 2010? And what was our average in 2011? So I can look back and see the history of our categories and the averages that we had in spending in those categories on one page. It's like a beautiful thing. And so I just use a good old-fashioned Excel spreadsheet, and then I have a really good CPA who helps us with our taxes and keeping track of all of that. And I have some other systems in place, but the one I use the most is just the Excel tracking sheet. But again, use whatever works for you, okay? There are wonderful apps available for that. So with the monthly tracking, you've got to carve out time to do it and protect that time. I have a note in just the Notes app that's on iPhones and Apple computers where I have Leah's months end stuff. And it's all my months end stuff of how I close out a Mary Kay month and how I open up a new month. And although that's a personal item, it's in that list. Like the start of every new month, within the first 7 or 8 days, I'm looking at all of our finances and investing time and going through all the transactions and getting it in our spreadsheet. It takes me about 2 hours total from like start to finish about 2 hours of time. Sometimes I can do it all in one chunk, and sometimes I break it up, just depending on what's going on. But I know that the first week of every month, it's being fit into some day or some time slot or time chunk that's going in there. And what reminds me is when I look at this app of Leah's months and stuff, I still look at it every single month. You would think I would have it memorized, and I probably kind of do, but I just for security, I want to look at the list, and then I take the list and I'm plugging it into my time blocks for that first week of the month. And so that's the first step, is just knowing when to do it and protecting that time and reminding yourself that it's time to do that again. I have this little, let me see if I can show you. It is, I got these at IKEA, these little paper holder things. And so I have a shelf for just any, I don't know, receipts, statements, transactions, just like helpful paperwork I need to use at that time. Oh, packing slips is a good one. Like when I get a Mary Kay order in, I just stick those packing slips on a shelf, and all month long, I'm sort of just stuffing paper in there that I know I'm going to need to look at when I look at our money once a month when I do the tracking. So I just have like one place for all of those receipts and paperwork to go. It's not all of my receipts like ever. I had tracked that I organized that in a different spot, but it's just paperwork I need to look at that one time a month for numbers I need to plug into my Excel spreadsheet. And then I do actually print. Yes, I do print on paper, black and white, all of our transactions. And then I have a page protector that all of those things go in that one page protector for the 1 month. And this has been really helpful when I've needed to look back at records. For the past 10 years, I have a page protector for every single month, with just all the financial information that you may want to look back at for a variety of reasons, okay? All of that stuff is digital as well. So then you print all your accounts, and not just your checking and your credit cards, but you would want to print ProPay, or at least look at it on a device. You don't have to print it. I just like to print it. I have a company that's a payroll service that pays my assistants. And so there's things I print within there. You've got your packing slips. You've got your sales tickets too. You need to take a look at those. So you print all of those things, and then I sit down with all of those papers, and line by line, I'm going through it. And every single transaction goes into a category. And then I take my phone, and line by line, I add up all our dining and entertainment. And then I add up all of our groceries spent. And then I add up all of my postage charges for my business. And then I add up this and I add up that. And every transaction is accounted for and has a home, like it lives in a category. And so I go through and I identify every category with its total. And you guys can see the Excel spreadsheet that's in the pinned post. It basically has all the categories here, all the months up top. And so every month has a total spent in each category, with the running total out here and the running average out here. And then every new year has a new page. So it's one document, and each page of the Excel file it's for a new year. Okay, I hope you're following this. It's the categories that take the most time. And even if you're using like Quicken or some kind of software program, they kind of automatically will put things in categories that are easy. You know, Kroger transactions, they're going to label for groceries. But then there's some that you're going to have to customize. And so whether you're using an app or an Excel spreadsheet, it just takes time to establish what your categories are. And very early on in doing this, I had a miscellaneous category. And pretty much a lot of things fell into miscellaneous. And so we had this huge number of miscellaneous spending. Well, that's great, but except for the fact that it doesn't really help you figure out where your spending really is. So you want to really work to break down your categories as much as possible, both in your personal world and in your business, so that you can really get a clear picture of what you're spending in each category. Um, Try to avoid having a miscellaneous category. Try to avoid that. But sometimes there's just random things that fall into that category. Okay. So last thing I'll say, you guys, is that it takes time and energy, and it's often frustrating, but it's a game changer. I'm telling you, a game changer. I have always considered doing this monthly tracking as an IPA, an income producing activity. And although it's not directly related to my business in booking, coaching, selling, and recruiting, which are the IPAs in the Mary Kay world, it has been an activity that has paid me 100-fold back for the time I've invested in it. Every minute I've invested in this has created and multiplied wealth and abundance for my family and our financial world. Okay? So I want to encourage you, take the time, be frustrated, give the energy to it. It's worth it for how it can transform your financial life. Okay, so it is an income producing activity, and a good and wise and smart and incredible investment of time that allows you to truly steward what God has given you. Okay, remember, they're all God's donuts. He's just giving us these things and this money to steward and take care of and manage. Let's do that well. And I hope I've given you some tools to allow you to steward well. Another kind of closing thought, you guys, is it's good to think of it as a game. Like, this is just a fun game. And that helps me to not get frustrated by the amount of time it's taken, or getting stressed by all the numbers and organization of it. Like, it's all just a game, and you just want to play the game really well. Like, don't let it be too stressful for you. You can handle this. You can get a handle on it and learn to be a good steward. So let's talk about book choices and close it out with that. So I put some in the workbook, and these are just a handful of the ones that have made the biggest impact on me. So I want to explain them so you can pick the one that's best for you. Dave Ramsey's Total Money Makeover. I think everybody on the planet should read that book. He's Dave Ramsey for a reason, because he gives the most well thought out, clear plan that starts with getting you out of debt and carries you all the way through to potentially being very wealthy. And it takes certain steps that need to go in a certain order. And I mean, it's just, he's got a good plan. He's got a good thing going on. So that's a good one, especially if debt is your first step in getting out of it and you feel like you don't know how to get out of it. Dave will tell you how to get out of debt. Okay, Susie Orman's 9 Steps to Financial Freedom. That covers more of like the big picture of your financial world. So she even goes into wills and trusts and power of attorney and long-term health care. And so I know if you're young, you might be thinking, well, I don't need that. Well, at some point you will, and it's important to learn that when you're young. And so she also does an excellent job of helping you to discover your emotional connection to money, and helps you to uncover maybe some things in the past that have led to certain choices you've made financially. She really helps you to uncover that and goes over the power of your emotional connection to money. Okay, next week I'm actually going to train on some things I've learned from her about that. Secrets of Six-Figure Women, that's a really good one. If you have any limiting belief connected to making a lot of money or making a higher income in Mary Kay, she really goes into the mindset of creating wealth and connecting your You may have a worth or deserve level or an identity that is an obstacle or a stumbling block between you and making a higher income. And she covers that really well. Master Your Money by Ron Blue. Ron Blue was actually a mentor of Dave Ramsey's before Dave Ramsey became Dave Ramsey. And so that's a very comprehensive book on your financial world. I mean, he covers pretty much every topic you could possibly imagine, and he comes at it from a biblical perspective and a Christian worldview. So excellent, excellent book. Thou Shalt Prosper. This is written by a Jewish rabbi, and it's a very intriguing book, very intellectual and cerebral. It's very long. And so that covers a lot of the mindset of being successful as a business person and what it means to create wealth. He also comes at it from a biblical perspective, but more from a Jewish worldview. And it's an awesome book, very intriguing and thought-provoking. Okay, The Richest Man in Babylon. I read that years ago, and I just Googled, like, what are the best financial books out there? This was on almost every list. It's more of a story. And so for those of you who like to learn in story form and you don't want a lot of, like, numbers or practical advice, that would be a good one. I can't say it's made a massive impact on my financial world because I do like more practical things, like things I can get my hands on. But it's a good story, and the main concept is how important it is that your money work for you, and that it can work for you. And then The Millionaire Next Door is basically a study of millionaires in America and their spending habits and their lifestyle habits. Very intriguing book. And then there are many, many more, but I just wanted to give you a sampling. You don't have to read one of these books. I just wanted to provide the resource. You can pick any book that you want in the entire world connected to money and finances. And I just want you to be having that resource and that influx of knowledge and information coming into your brain and your heart as we walk through this program together. So, well, there you have it. Good golly, it's been 2 hours. Can't believe it. So, all right, you guys, here we go. Here we go. Post any questions, comments that you have in our Facebook group. And I'm excited to spend the next 3 weeks together. All right, you guys have a powerful day. See you next Tuesday.